Welcome back to Living in Austin, Texas. Recently on this channel, we have been casting a spotlight on various places within the greater Austin area that are either overlooked or underrated or not really talked about, flying under the radar. And in many cases, wrongfully so. A lot of these places have a lot to offer and they just aren't as popular, if you will. And in my opinion, one of those places, despite I will admit growing a bit in popularity recently, but still, is none other than Lago Vista, Texas. And in the greater Austin area, when people think of the various lakes that Austin has to offer, the first one that usually comes to mind is Lake Travis. And accordingly, people think of Lakeway when they think of lake town living. Lakeway, in case you didn't know, is very exclusive, very expensive, very affluent. However, people don't realize that is just the south shore of Lake Travis, and that there is also a North Shore, which yes, is Lago Vista, Texas. The lesser known and more affordable alternative. And despite being imperfect, personally, I still feel like it has a lot to offer. And so in this video, we are going to go over the cliff notes, if you will, of Lago Vista, Texas, and hopefully help you arrive at your own conclusion as to whether or not it might be right for you. But before we can do that, in case you're new, my name is Frank, I make the videos happen, and I am partnered with our closer licensed agent, Caleb Reitmer, and together we help people just like you wanting to relocate to the greater Austin area. So don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team however you want, whenever you want. That is what we love to do. So yes, going over the cliff notes of Lago Vista, Texas, giving you the basics, a general overview, if you will. Let's start with its location, which in my opinion is not one of Lago Vista's strengths. Lago Vista is pretty far removed from civilization in a way, which on one hand is a good thing because you kind of have this secluded aesthetic, this vibe that you're away from all the busyness and craze of Austin, Texas. But on the other hand, you are further removed from pretty much everything you might want to do outside of Lago Vista, Texas. So what you can expect is that Lago Vista, at least from the heart of downtown Austin, is on average going to be approximately 50 minutes. With bad traffic, that could easily be an hour, or with no traffic and a heavy foot, it could maybe be 45 minutes instead of 50, but that is what you can expect if you're wanting to dabble in the heart of downtown. Additionally, I will also mention Lago Vista's proximity to that North Austin tech hub. I just like to bring this up because a lot of the clients that we've helped relocate to the greater Austin area are doing so for jobs in tech. And yes, while a lot of them are in downtown, a lot of them are also in that North Austin tech hub. So in the case of Lago Vista, that is going to be about 40 minutes from that North Austin tech hub. It's just not a hop and a skip away. You know, some other places we talk about in these videos are maybe 15, 20 minutes from either downtown or North Austin. In this case, 40 to tech, 50 to downtown. If you will be commuting and you're not working remote from home, that could be a headache, so just keep it in mind. Up next, let's talk about the things to do in Lago Vista, Texas. In my opinion, it's hard to consider this one either a strength or a weakness, because it's not like Lago Vista is, for example, Cedar Park. Typical suburbia has a lot of strengths regarding its schools, for example, but it's not going to have a lot to do, right? Because it's suburbia. And then you have a place like Round Rock, which is this hub outside of downtown Austin in terms of population, which will have an abundance of things to do. The reason it's hard to compare Lago Vista with places like that is because Lago Vista, unlike those examples, is a lake town. So on one hand, you have a lot of things to do, but they're going to be in that very specific category of things to do. So if you live in Lago Vista, of course, the main attraction is Lake Travis. So that means taking the boat out, that means picnics, that means jet skiing, whatever you like to do, however you like to enjoy the water. In addition to that, you are going to have an abundance of golf, you are going to have an abundance of parks, you are going to have wineries, breweries, that type of thing, also pickleball. But if you're sensing a theme here, at least for the most part, that's all going to be your outdoorsy stuff. It's all going to be very lively and basically lake related at the end of the day, as opposed to other places that either have an abundance of shopping or they have their own downtowns. Like Georgetown, Texas has its own downtown, the square, with all kinds of boutique shops and eateries, things like that. Lago Vista will have some little things here and there, but it still feels very removed from civilization as mentioned. You know, if you're driving into the very heart of Lago Vista, some of those residential neighborhoods by the water, it's a good 15, 20, 25 minutes on just these winding roads that you kind of feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, and the nearest grocery store from your house could be 15 minutes, you know? It's just so different from a place like Leander, Texas, for example. So back to the point, the things to do in Lago Vista: if it's your speed to live in a lake town, you will not be bored. It is the perfect dream come true for you. But if you're wanting more than just that type of lifestyle, you might get a little bored, or you might have to do a lot of driving. So just keep that in mind. All right, keeping it moving, let's talk about these schools in Lago Vista, Texas. This is something I like to bring up a lot in these videos because not everyone who moves to Austin is some 20-something-year-old out of college ready to start that big job. A lot of them are people with families or people who are wanting to start a family in the near future, and rightfully so. They care a lot about the school districts. So in the case of the greater Austin area, as also mentioned in a lot of our videos, you really have the two big dogs, the two cream of the crop districts, the very sought after districts. One of them is the Round Rock Independent School District, and the other one is the Leander Independent School District. And I bring those two districts up not because of personal opinion, but simply because of public information that is very accessible, and the demand we've seen in either Cedar Park, Leander, or Round Rock because of those school districts. So speaking of public information, the website I like to use when I make videos like these is niche.com, because it gives these school districts in the greater Austin area letter grades. And the cream of the crop districts are going to get an A or an A plus in the case of Round Rock and Leander. But then you have other places in the greater Austin area that are just less developed. You know, they're much more affordable. They're not the cream of the crops, and they're going to get C pluses, B minuses, that kind of thing. You know, it's hard to earn an A, if you know what I mean. And Lago Vista, Texas is actually very respectable according to niche.com. While it doesn't get an A or an A plus like the two best you can find in all of the greater Austin area, it still gets a B plus from niche.com. And if you've been making these videos for as long as I have, and you've been getting these grades from niche.com, you'll know that it's not easy to get a B plus. So many of these places, as mentioned, score way lower. So honestly, in my opinion, I would say that is a very underrated aspect of Lago Vista. You know, when you think of some lake town that's kind of far removed and isolated, at least speaking for myself, I'm not going to go ahead and assume that they have great schools. But as mentioned, according to public information, it does. Now, could I explain to you what the differences are between a B plus district and an A plus district, at least through the lens of niche.com? No, most certainly not. I am by no means an expert, and I do encourage you to do further homework if you're taking this relocation to Lago Vista very seriously. But nonetheless, that is what you can expect. Okay, last but certainly not least, let's talk about the affordability of Lago Vista, Texas, which in my opinion, I would say relatively is quite a strength. As mentioned, most people, when they think of lake town living in the greater Austin area, they think of Lakeway or maybe the Westlake Hills, two places that are very affluent, very exclusive, very high end. They forget about Lago Vista, which is the point of this video. So when compared to places like that, Lago Vista absolutely is a steal and is very affordable. However, to play devil's advocate and keep it fair, in the context of just other places that are not lake towns in the greater Austin area, you are definitely going to have more affordable options. You know, take a place like Manor, Texas, for example, that's going to be in the low threes as a median home price. Taylor, Texas is going to be the same. You have Pflugerville in the mid to high threes, places like that. And then you have your more sought after suburbs in the greater Austin area, like Leander, Round Rock, Georgetown, Cedar Park. All of those places are going to be in the mid 400s towards $500,000 for their median home price. But here's the thing, none of those places are lake towns. And Lago Vista, Texas has a median home price of right around $435,000. So again, is that dirt cheap like some other options? No, but it's actually cheaper than Cedar Park, Texas, for example, which is, as mentioned, just this nice, quaint suburbia with great schools. In Lago Vista, you will literally have a cheaper median home price while being 5, 10, 15 minutes away from the water, of course, depending on where in Lago Vista you live. Now, if I was to speculate, even though no one's asking me to speculate, as to why it's cheaper than these other places that don't have lakes in the greater Austin area, I would simply suspect it's because Lago Vista School District, for example, is not as sought after, doesn't have the same reputation, people aren't flocking there for the schools. And the other reason I would suspect is because of its lack of things to do outside of that lake town living bubble. And as mentioned, the icing on top, you're kind of far removed from everything too. So those are the factors that, in my opinion, would keep it at a lower price point. But even still, in my opinion, to be on the north shore of Lake Travis and to be in the 400s as your median home price still baffles me. And I feel like that actually reflects how underrated and under the radar it still is. You know, people just haven't caught on quite yet. It has grown substantially, it has developed, the locals will tell you that much, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily boomed. I wouldn't say it's become like Leander or anything of that nature. So yeah, there you have it. The cliff notes, the basics, if you will, the general overview of Lago Vista, Texas. For many of the aforementioned reasons, it might be exactly what you're looking for. A total steal, flying under the radar, that lake town lifestyle you've been dreaming of. Or perhaps for many of the aforementioned reasons as well, it is not what you are looking for whatsoever. Either way, once again, that is what we are here for. Helping people just like you wanting to relocate to the greater Austin area find that perfect spot. But again, the only way we can do that is, yes, by you reaching out to us. So don't hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team. Whether you shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day, it is what we love to do. And yes, in case you're new here, on this channel we talk about living in Austin, Texas, the greater Austin area, the good and the bad. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that little bell to get notified anytime we put out a new video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Click the like button if we've been providing any value for you. Share it with anybody you know who wants to learn more. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.